Welcome everyone to this new video. We are here with Saibov today talking about 10 muscle up myths.
I would like to thank you for having me here. It's always a great pleasure and let's get to it.
So the first myth about the muscle up is muscle ups are the most effective compound movement for the upper body.
Yes and no, because I would say that obviously when you are starting, when you are not like elite in the muscle up, obviously it's a myth. There are way better exercises that are not that strainful, because when you are not on the, say, advanced level yet, say 20 muscle ups, just like that, then it's probably not your compound exercise that you want to go to, not the most effective one, because it puts a lot of strain to the elbows and the shoulders and the wrists. So we need to go through certain conditioning to actually make it like a good compound one, but it takes years, I would say. So no, it's not a myth, it's more like, you know, on a long-term basis. But yes, it is a myth, because I would stick to rather just combining pull and push in one workout rather than chasing the muscle up for just to have this compound exercise.
So when you train pull and push separately, you also have more rest, right? And more time.
Yeah.
You can train more often, basically.
Yeah, I always give the beginner students of mine such split as pull, separately push, then legs, then pull plus push, but not as intense as the pull and push separately, and then another training which could be more technical. So we try to target all of those. So that would give you the chance to get to the muscle up and use it as an effective compound movement. But still, to use it as a compound movement, it's really a tricky business. That's why I just mentioned this little detail that yes, it can be a compound movement, but for minority.
Second myth, muscle ups are 80% dependent on a strong pull movement.
While it's possible to give you the percentage of what your muscle up is dependent on, we should consider that there is way more to it, and it is a myth. Because we are all different. It starts from the length of your limbs and it ends with your fitness background, how strong your pulling or your pushing will be. Whether it's coming straight from your pulling, or does your core help a lot? Core contraction, rigidness, right? Because the pull-up can be as high as you want to be. It can be 100%. It can be 100% pull-up. But then would you be able to complete those for 5 reps? I doubt so. But if we speak about the more efficient ways, we should find what works the best for us, for our body, what we're stronger at. Is my mobility good to stay close to the bar so I can, you know, I don't need to go into this curve back to the bar and then onto the bar. So this mobility allows me, to go through the transition all the way up. Or if my pulling is stronger, then I will just pull higher. Or if my push is stronger, I might use more of this transition strength, right? Instead of pulling too high. Or I can combine. There are no limitations. That's what I love about calisthenics. There are no limitations at all. You can start with a pull-based technique within your max rep sets, so to speak. And then you can proceed to a different technique and adjust your fatigued pulling to your fresher pushing. And after, for example, 10 first reps of the muscle ups and the max rep set, you switch to less high pull, lower pull, but more from the tricep, more push from the tricep. So that's what I would say. And this being said, I would conclude that it is a myth, while it is still a truth for certain individuals who choose to have an 80% pull-based muscle up.
Interesting. Third myth, if someone can do 20 clean pull-ups, he or she can do a muscle up.
Yes and no. I'm sorry for confusing this whole thing. There is no like, when I achieve 20 pull-ups, I will be able to do the muscle up. When I achieve 30 dips, I can do the tuck planche. There are so many variables and there are so many factors that affect your progress in this or that. And while for one, it might be possible to complete the muscle up just even with the 7 pull-ups, or even 5, it happened. For the others, it could be really tricky to complete it after 30 or 40 pull-ups. Because when we speak about the strength, we should distinguish it as the brutal strength, the one that you acquire through pull-ups, dips, push-ups, compound lifts as well. Just the way your overall pulling, how strong it is, overall pushing. But then we get to this specific strength, and then we need to learn how the movement actually is, and our body should go through certain learning process to get to the point when it actually understands this specific strength. So then the brutal one can be transferred to the specific. That's why after achieving 20 pull-ups, you can be certain that you are ready to start doing the muscle up or preparing for the muscle up or just trying. Yeah, just any kind of muscle up training. And when I speak about the brutal and specific strength, I can give you a simple example. A regular pull-up would look like this, right? You pull and you are hitting the body eventually at the end point, right? So there is no way you actually can pull through unless you are super strong in this transition. You just do the impossible muscle up or stuff like that. So in the high pull-up, which is more specific strength based, more technical, specific technique, you need to pull from the bar with your elbows pointed to the front, so you don't hit the body with your elbows, so you don't block yourself. So it requires already some technique, some skill work. So that's what I refer to. So it is a myth, but you can be sure that after completing 20 decent pull-ups, you can feel free to just go for that muscle up.
Myth number 4. It's 10 times harder for women to do muscle ups than for men due to the anatomy.
Yeah, it's true. It's not a myth. I'm not sure about 10 times, 8 times, or 2.5 times harder, but it is harder. It's just the way it is. But as well harder for taller people to progress as fast as those shorter people, right? Or more heavier weights in comparison to light weights. Just because it takes you longer doesn't make it impossible to reach. It's actually beautiful because after completing something, there is no, fanfares and, those none of that. I mean, there is in your head and everybody congratulates you, but next day you wake up and you just want to grind further. So yes, it is harder for them due to the anatomy. It is.
You talked about like middle back mobility.
Yeah, what I face in my coaching from my experience, 2 examples, the handstand and the muscle up. In order to perform the exercise properly, we need to have feet under hips, hips under shoulder, shoulder under hands. And when we speak about the muscle up, you swing like this, right? You don't detach the body. Your feet cannot stay behind, because if you go up, you will just compensate and your lower body will naturally go to the front. For girls, it's quite tricky because they naturally have a little bit of more restricted mid-back area. And often when I ask my students to raise the arm above the head without arching the back to check this overhead mobility, which is really important for the handstand and muscle up. And if it's in the deficit, then as soon as you raise the arm, you will just fall into the back extension to compensate. And then imagine when you need to compensate like this, you swing to the front in the muscle up, and then you start to pull while your body is a little bit arched because you need to somehow get into this position by arching something, compensating. And then you start to pull and the body goes like this. And then if the core is not strong enough, the whole mechanics of the movement get messed up. So what I say is that the mid-back region should be targeted and emphasized within women's training program within calisthenics. What I would also say is to strengthen the core muscles, because every time your stomach stretches, it means that it should be more tight. So we need to counterdo this back extension. Core, mid-back area, thoracic spine, T-spine area, overhead mobility, all those things. Training is not about strength only. It's also those little details that you need to connect with your thoughts, with your muscle-mind connection. And the muscle-mind connection, you build it not through the trainings solely. You build it through visualization, through redefining, reevaluating everything that you go through in the training process, right? And then you're just able to sit down and squeeze the right side of your core, left side of your core. Try to contract the muscles not only when you're doing the exercise. Don't be a robot. To conclude and answer the question, it is harder, but it's not impossible.
Myth number 5. The best equipment to learn a muscle up is a resistance band.
I would like to disagree and call it a myth, because while a resistance band is a really nice tool to get used to this transition, to the movement. And that's what people usually defend the usage of the resistance band with, is that I need to do this transition. But what I actually suggest is to use the resistance band for the pull-ups, for example, when you're building strength, and for the muscle-up transition specific technique, I would really suggest to use the static bar or any bar that you can do the jumping muscle-ups on, because that's when you are able to fly through the transition with your feet with more freedom. Because let me explain. The resistance band, when you're hanging, it gives you this resistance. It's tight, so your body gets this bounce. So imagine this, with the muscle up, you get to swing. Yeah, it's a must-have. Then, when you swing to the front, does the band move freely with your feet? It's not. It doesn't really move that fluid. So the band might be the determining factor that actually stops you from using the core correctly. Because as soon as you swing to the front, the band might keep your feet right under the bar, but your back will be like this. You know what I mean? And then while it's gonna be amazing to make it over the bar, the starting point of the muscle up, especially in this, when you stop the swing in the front and you need to start going up, it's when the band cuts the slack. You know what it means? It cuts the slack of the actual effort from the athlete. So when we then initiate the movement, the feet are behind and I need to compensate. What I really mean and what I want you guys to do is to focus on as free movements as you can with the usage of the resistance band sometimes, but don't really put it as a priority in your training. So I would stick to jumping muscle ups, to learning how to activate your core within the swing, because it's really tricky. The muscular contraction under dynamic destruction is when it's really tricky. This is why the 360 is hard, because it's really, you need to first, squeeze the muscles to bounce off the bar and then land. And if you don't start properly, you will probably not land it, right? Because you need to start correctly. So same thing for the muscle up. If you start with your body like this, don't expect to go up like this. If you use the resistance band, try to use a really thin one. Don't use the band that keeps your legs tight. So use a small band to prevent your feet from being pulled and your body from being messed up. Static bar or any bar that you can do the jumping muscle up, high pull-ups, core contraction, core control to prevent the body from going to deflection, some negative muscle ups, the transition dip for the muscle up, the so-called low bar dip, and improving your brutal strength, pull dip. So it is a myth.
Myth number 6, ring muscle ups are easier than bar muscle ups.
Oh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. While it is easier, it does require more strength. Let me put it this way. On the muscle up, the bar is really sturdy. So you can apply a certain momentum to get yourself over the bar. So you swing to the front, you catch this right tempo and timing, then you initiate the pull-up and you make it over the bar. That's what I actually meant when some people are able to do the muscle-up when they can only do 7 pull-ups. You just catch the moment. But on rings, if you're not strong enough, you will just not make it. However, if we speak about the progress with like weights or for women, there is no barrier in front of you. So you don't need to pull that high as on the bar. So you are able to pull like this and then you just boom. And due to the anatomy, for ladies it's quite tough with the bar. For certain ladies it's just the way it is, and there is an obstacle that you need to conquer. And for certain individuals you need to really pull quite far from the bar. So the rings are a good option. I actually have the rings from Grenation, top notch. It's a really tricky one. I would really hold back on this one and not call it a myth or not a myth.
Myth number 7, explosive strength is essential for a muscle up.
Absolutely agree. Is not a myth, because first define the explosive strength for me, just real quick.
Quick movements, you know, when you see bodybuilders, how they do their reps, usually it's like really time under tension, it's slow and controlled reps. Yeah,
you just said it. Slow and controlled reps are fine to build the strength, but the explosive strength is called like that for a reason. Explosiveness, faster, quicker reps. When we do the muscle up, we don't do the muscle up that slow. Well, there is a slow muscle up, but it's not the explosive one. So the explosive one is basically the regular one, the one that requires a faster movement. So explosive strength is required to be able to do the muscle up, because without this, you will not have a good time initiating the muscle up, because your body will just struggle to keep intact in order to just produce the needed strength to perform the muscle up and get over the bar. So it is not a myth. Explosive strength should be there and needs to be there in order to do the muscle up.
Maybe a small addition for the ring muscle up, because we just talked about it. The ring muscle up needs less explosive strength.
Yeah, that's totally true, totally right. It needs less explosive strength, but it actually needs more time under tension work, because you don't lose the tension at all. You go from the bottom to the top with the tension throughout your body, and it goes from the back to the bicep to the forearm to the tricep to the shoulder. It's just lovely and amazing.
And I mean, it's also one of your passions to do like slow muscle ups. Yeah. And I remember you doing the walking muscle ups last year's meetup. Are there people who don't have the explosive strength but still can do like these slow muscle ups?
Yeah, it's 100%. There are people who are better with the slower movements than the faster movements. And it happened to me in coaching and just from my observations that people were able to do the slow muscle up faster than they did the explosive one. And yeah, eventually you just discover both. I would say that at the end of the day, targeting both aspects like explosiveness and time under tension is the way to go.
Myth number 8, muscle ups are not good for the joints. Means muscle ups put a lot of stress, stress on them.
Yeah, they do. They do. It's there is no doubt. They put a lot of strain onto your body. However, with a proper conditioning, with adequate recovery, with proper nutrition, hydration, and positive thinking, you just get there without any problems. So I believe that, it's not a myth.
Myth number 9, kicking during the muscle up should be avoided at all costs.
It's a myth, because we should not really avoid the kicking. If your body is set in the proper position from the start and it only breaks into the kick or any help from the lower extremities, then it's fine. Because if you set the body, like I mentioned previously, if you set the body and you move properly and then you initiate the muscle up, say with the straight body, but then you reach this point and you just need to kip, get over the bar, again, extend the legs and finish properly. So the point A and point C are excellent. So the starting and finishing. So you actually get to the right start. So then we can work on the middle portion, middle segment. Because if we focus on not kipping without a proper start, so then we will eventually come back to the beginnings, right? To relearn the technique, which happens all over the place. If we neglect the details from the beginning, we will have to come back to them when we're actually on an advanced level and it's actually embarrassing to ourselves and we need to conquer even more mental obstacles to get there. It's really important to set it all straight from the very beginning and take it easy. So if you manage to start the muscle up with your body straight and then if kipping occurs after it, it's fine. But if you swing to the front and you initiate the movement from the hips, then we're not talking about what we need to do, what we should do. Now we're mentioning only what we want to see in calisthenics. There are many disciplines that require different muscle up techniques, and it's all respectable.
Myth number 10, training muscle ups will improve my pull-ups at the same time.
Yeah. It's not a myth, but it will not improve your pull-ups alone. So let's say an imaginary scenario is that I get to do the muscle ups 7 days a week or even 4 days a week, and it's only muscle ups. There are no pull-ups, there are no dips, any kind of exercises. Would it improve my pull-up? Probably not. Would it maintain? Maybe. Would it reduce? Yes. Probably. You see, there is a little bit of uncertainty. I will get to it. You can go for the muscle up alone and it will probably reduce your pull-up numbers because the muscle up numbers are just less and you will condition your body to perform under less time under tension, right? And you will spend on the bar less time. The pull-up is different. The pull-up is done within the momentum, and usually in muscle up you use the explosiveness, which we just spoke about, from the beginning, right, to this portion. Then it's usually the work of gravity and how you work against. So you initiate it and you're flying through. So the maximum contraction is here. But then when we speak about improving pull-ups, it will probably not be a good thing to go with, because muscle up, like I said, it's less reps, it's more strain to the elbows, it's not really targeting your full pull-up movement because it's only up here, and then it's more of the rotational strength. So it will not improve your pull-ups. Will it maintain? Maybe, because it depends on what kind of training you did before this training cycle or whatever. Yeah, like imaginary muscle up cycle, only muscle ups in the training. Will it improve? Maybe, but not necessarily. What I mean with maybe is the grip, right? The grip, the core contraction, the form overall. It can be improved. So while I cannot agree with the fact that muscle ups improve your pull-ups single-handedly, but it does improve certain parts of it. It's like pull-up improves your muscle up, but it will not give you the muscle up itself. So it improves certain parts of it. And that's why I love calisthenics. It's like everything is so, you know, so together and connected and linked. If you really want to, you can find the interlinks between the exercises, just like that. And it actually makes you enjoy the process much more. Because you're like, all right, now I set my mind this way. I know how to do the handstand. I know how to do the handstand push-up. So I've never done the planche, but considering my pushing strength in the handstand, I feel like my shoulders are strong. So should I try the straddle tuck planche or maybe tuck planche push-ups? And I try to transfer the confidence and the body control from the other skill to the one that is more like in the priority for me.
If you understand the principles of calisthenics, that one move benefits the others, and if you understand the anatomy and also your weak links in your body, you can move along this path or this line, as you call it. So guys, we're done with the 10 muscle up myths. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for sharing your experience with us. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you have more myths that you want Sai's opinion about, put them down in the comments, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, Phil, for an amazing interview, myth, talk. It was just amazing. Always a pleasure. See you guys in the next one.